The appraisers are keeping pace. I mean, I'm not saying there's not an anomaly. Here's my point. The appraisers are actually doing a fairly decent job of keeping pace with the market. Shockingly, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised.
The reason is they consider a full price offer on that as one of the best indicators of value, because the way the appraiser says, well, this person's out there in the market, they're looking at all these homes, they think it's worth that. That's a pretty good indication that maybe that's where the value is. So
they're going back to saying the market bore it out, particularly when you can say I had 3 offers.
Right.
Now we've accepted this one, but there were 2 more right beside it willing to pay the same or really, really close. So they say, well, the market's proving the value. So guys, for those of you that number one, it's been a while since we priced that way. Right? And so you are competing. Understand that, I mean, can I tell the...
Sure.
I get a text, I'm on the phone with Jacob the other night, driving home from work, and he says, all right, got that covered, I'll take care of it for you, I'll see you soon, I've got a 6 o'clock listing appointment. I said, awesome, go nail it, good luck.
This is awesome, actually.
And I said, great, and then the next thing I know, I get a text from Matt Dimmick, and he says, fantastic. Jacob's here for a 6 o'clock listing appointment that I'm here for as well. I should have said Holly because she's hot. So Matt and Jacob show up for a listing appointment thinking, I mean, they're sure they've got wires crossed.
Positive I got, yeah, like he's sitting on the street, I pull up and I'm like, hey, that's an Escalade that says Brad.
Wait a minute. No, there's no others.
And he hops out and he's like, am I?
Early?
Early? And I'm like, I had 6 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, so did I. And I'm like, let me text this.
9911 Matt got very confused. He was none of this lined up.
Oh, yeah. And seller pulls in and she's like, hey, glad you're both here at the same time.
Let's go take the walkthrough. Wow. Here's the other thing.
We don't know yet.
There was a third realtor they were competing against.
Yeah.
At the same time? At the same
No, she had walked through the week before.
It was Kareem.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, they like Keller Williams.
So I hope y'all figure it out because I wouldn't do it. No, but here's my point. I hear it in the hallway. You know, when I'm walking around, I'm talking to people, I'm competing for a listing, I'm competing for a listing. You are not walking in one and done and it's just you. And when you do, enjoy it. just really enjoy it. You are competing for the listings every time. Be prepared. You have to bring your A game. You just do. You have to be so strong on that presentation. You have to be so strong on your scripts. Why are you laughing? Go away. You have to really have it together. I'm telling you this because I don't want you surprised. I would rather you guys walking into those situations. You know, Katrina really works on her iPad listing presentation. That's something you've been working on. I know everybody's got a different style. Know it, practice it, learn it. Just achieve mastery of that listing presentation. Don't be, I can't believe I'm saying these words. Don't be afraid to price aggressively, guys. You're going to have to. Because you're going to get beat, and you're going to go back to the office and you're saying, I can't believe they had listed that. They told them it would sell it this much because there's a strong chance it will.
But there's aggressively insane.
I want you to hear my point. Don't price a year ago. Don't stay back where you were. We talk about the shifting market, right? The market's fluid. What does that mean?
It's changing every
It's
day.
moving, right? Every single day, every season. Even in this market, which is an awesome, awesome market, guess what? We're going to have slower times and we're going to have faster times, right? It's seasonality. Even in a great market, it changes. So you've got to be, right now, the thing is, it's changing week over week over week. You okay, honey? That was a lot. I'm impressed. It's a fluid market. I was having this conversation with an agent that I coach with, and she was just stuck on pricing, and she said, you know, I can't. I finally told her, you've got to let go of this if you want the listing. And oh, by the way, your seller can get it. And what is our job and responsibility to our seller? What are the 3 things we're trying to accomplish for them?
Best price, least amount of hassle, highest commission.
That was the broker, ladies and gentlemen.
The highest price, the least amount of hassle, and you understand that being strategic about pricing and getting really clear is a big part of it. So I just am telling you, like I said, I never thought I would have said these words 2 years ago when I'm like, take the last sale and then lop off, you know, 15,000 because it's dropping. It's the market. You are the market expert, so you have to be ready to price it correctly.
But there's still a fine line, though. Unlike back in 2006, where any price something would happen, now there's still a really fine line between it's going to sell and it's going to sit. So that's still a tightrope in this market.
Automatic price reductions.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you definitely see that.
So I want you to be prepared. I want you to be ahead of the curve. I want you to be ahead of the game. I want you walking into the summer with the listing inventory. Do you guys understand? I shared this with you 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and I want to reiterate it again. Do you understand that as a market center, as a whole, 256 agents, 42% of our business last month was listings? Do you get why that's a big deal for you? That's a huge, massive deal. That means you guys control the market, right? Well, we may never hit 50. If we get to 50, I'm going to be blown away and throwing a big party because we have so many buyer's agents. We're heavy on teams with buyer's agents. We're always going to have heavy buy side. But to be able to control the market and have the ability to dictate pace and terms and commission and things like that, you have to own the listings. You have to. Yes, sir.
It's risk of being really kind of just crass and
No.
commercial here. If you
Not
don't
you.
push a listing, you're never going to double end it. And it's kind of nice to get both sides of the transaction once in a while.
I actually wanted to touch on this. Go ahead.
No, I didn't say it, I just mumbled.
Oh. So if you're someone who, as part of your business plan, really wants to aggressively pursue double sides, buy and sell, you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the listings. Now, I will say this is the interesting thing about business, right? Because this is what we teach you guys. Understand okay, this is what most realtors' businesses look like, right? We base it on creativity, and we try to sprinkle in a dose of models, you know? How firm of a foundation do you have on this sort of game plan? It's an answer, none, right? You can't have a triangle standing on its corner. We teach you, I use this triangle all the time, but it's just applicable everywhere. We teach you, take the models, and then you get to add in creativity, right? So here's a prime example of this. Some may say, I want to hold the listing so I can really aggressively try and pre-sell the property. I'm going to get the non-MLS signed, which, I mean, of course, now it's part of the authorization and exclusive right to sell. I'm going to get the non-MLS signed. I'm going to get a sign up a week and a half, 2 weeks before it goes on the market, because I know that buyers are out driving around looking for property. There's a strong chance I can capture that buyer and get them in contract and have control. I mean, it's about commission on one hand, but it's also about some other things, right? Control, correct? When you have control of the whole deal, it's really, really nice. So that's one school of thought. I personally think there's a lot to that argument. There's another school of thought, and Jen Stalcutt mentioned this to me today, and I thought, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. It's a valid point. What have you noticed on the pre-sales? Because you've done a lot of pre-sales lately.
You've done a lot of pre-sales.
What's the challenge? What's the downside?
The big challenge is that the
You know, let's say
buyer.
it sucks. Okay.
I was refraining from holding out with what just saying.
Okay.
The challenge is that the buyer doesn't feel, you know, in a multiple offer situation, you have your buyer and they win that offer. They're like, yes, I won. I am the winner. Let's go forward. And then when there's little bumps along the way, they're like, it's okay because we won.
I beat up
When
those
you
other
have
two people. I barely got
exactly.
it. We'll
like
work through
we're going
this.
to keep through it. I have one right now that may DFT over pavers. And there's 8 pavers, by the way, that we're going to
So the buyer doesn't necessarily grasp the value of
No.
what they got.
No, because they feel like, well, we didn't get to negotiate on price, we didn't get to negotiate on terms, we didn't get to negotiate on this, so by God, these pavers are going to stay.
So there,
You know?
does that make sense? It's that skin in the game kind of thing, like if they haven't had to fight to get the property, you can be looking at them as the agent going, do you understand that if we put this on the open market, you potentially would have had to pay higher or make more concessions or take it as is or whatever. They don't necessarily recognize that because they went through no pain to get there.
Were they nice pavers?
No. No.
So how much did it cost us to replace them?
No.
So,
HOA won't allow
but
it.
do you understand my point? So here's where this is the beauty of owning your own business. So stock up and take this experience and say, I am never doing another,
Never
I'm not
gonna
pushing to get a
happen.
pre-sale
Let y'all
again. Okay? That's great. Anna Schulman may say, I really want to pursue this. I want to pre-list it and try and get the offer in and have control of the deal. There's no right or wrong answer.
I have a duplex right now, I sold to a buyer that we're working through, and it's been great, because I've got the buyer, I've got the seller, don't have to worry about it.
There's no right or wrong answer. There's just what you choose. But that's the beauty of it, is you put together a model, whatever that is, for your listing checklist, and then you get to be creative and add your own flavor, your own style to it, right? Your listing presentations all look different. Regardless, so here's my question. I just want to open it up for discussion. What do you do? What are you guys intending to do to, I don't know what the right word is, counteract the dollar listing, the dollar buyer selling licensing commission? You need a plan. You need to know what you're doing now before it shows up as a surprise.
Present your offer with a buyer services agreement and ask the seller to pay the fee.
Okay? So your first strategy would be take your, number one, guess what? Here's another reason you need to have a buyer rep agreement signed. Correct? The reason.
Loyalty agreement.
Thank you.
It's loyalty.
The reason you need to have a buyer loyalty agreement signed is so you have, and this isn't about your, if Jacob's my buyer, understand this isn't even about him. This is something I can take to the seller. Say, this is an agreement we have, I would like for you to pay this. Whether it works or not, you're gonna have to work on that and get your skill set sharpened. But understand, if you don't have anything in writing, you're just saying, well, my buyer's agreed to pay me 3%, or I'm owed 3% commission, would you do it? Looks a lot more formalized when you have a contract in front of you. Correct? Helps the delivery.
You can't put commission in the contract.
In the purchase and sale agreement, absolutely, you can address
But you can
it.
ask for a closing cost or a fee to be, right, Butch?
You know what, if it's a FSBO, it's a not, they're not realtors, fine as far as I'm concerned, to put in the contract.
But if it's a limited services agreement, even on a discount brokerage,
Are those guys realtors, like, is Wickersham's outfit?
I don't think
I
they
don't
are.
think they're realtors.
And so, the whole thing with not putting it in the contract is it's a
It's a
violation of
realtor.
the code of ethics. But if they're not members of the realtors, they don't adhere to that anyway.
They don't, but
We do.
but do we have to?
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
that, really. But
But I
that,
think that would, I think putting it in the contract that way establishes for that person, for that
I
seller,
agree.
that, oh, maybe I cut my nose off to spite my face on that, and I'm gonna fix that.
The one problem with putting the commission in the contract is the buyer and seller are agreeing what the brokers will pay. Buyer and seller cannot decide that. Brokers have to decide that between the brokers. And the
Yeah.
code of ethics says they have to do it before they.
So,
write the
I mean,
offer.
your safe bet is keep commission out of the purchase and sale agreement. Your safest bet, it doesn't, that's not the direction I want the discussion to go. Your safest bet is to keep commission out of the contract. What I want you to be clear on is how are you gonna handle protecting your commission? I mean, Jeremy, you're a strong buyer's agent on a solid team. How are you gonna protect your commission when you've got, not to put you on the spot, but when but to put you on the
I'm gonna
spot?
put you on the spot.
When you've got a $1 listing, it's the price that, it's the property your buyer really wants. What do you think?
Can I play the I don't know card?
Sure, absolutely. No, that's okay. But understand that you have to know. Like, and you have to know today.
You know, I always explain to my buyers, you know, it's a $300,000 property. Basically say, let's about $9,000 and just up front. You know, I basically say, you know, we might have to tack that onto the price if the price allows us to do that. But essentially, it's just going to raise your fee by about $40 a month.
Okay, so that's in your expectations conversation. Okay?
Which
There's
$40 a month isn't, I mean, I just say it's, you know, $1.20 a day.
correct. I totally appreciate you saying that, because that's what it comes down to. Lindsay mentioned it and Nate mentioned it. You've got to have the expectations dialogue with your buyer ahead of time. Because when they're writing the offer, is not the time to talk about the fact that, oh, by the way, you're gonna have to raise the price $9 grand to cover my commission.
You might not get the house because I need to get paid.
Correct. How does that come across?
And that's the other great thing about the buyer loyalty agreement is I've had 3 different people call me about some of those $1 because they see them on MLS. And I say, hey, we can go look at it. They're offering a $1 commission, which means that since we have this 3%, which is what they agreed to, then we have to figure that out somehow. And every single one of my buyers has said, never mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's having, I do believe, we have pushed and pushed and pushed buyer consultations. One of the challenges you're gonna face on these buyer consultations right now is the speed of the market. What do I mean by that?
You don't have time to do a consultation on Tuesday, invite them back Thursday to go look at properties to write it off on Saturday. You have to do that consultation, have an idea of what properties you're gonna see, look up those listings, set those appointments, and you have to do it all the same day.
Correct. What did we used to have to do? You could set the consultation Monday, you can plan for the weekend to go look at houses. If they saw some homes in the meantime, they would still be there. Will that happen today? No.
It's really challenging when you have buyers who work a lot of hours and they have 2 days off. It's like, okay, they set it up 3 days ahead of time to look at houses. Like, you can't get that.
So what has to happen is you have to be ready to move quickly. You have to schedule your day accordingly. You have to time block that direction. You've got to really be ahead of it, because that conversation that Nate was just talking about in the buyer consultation is imperative, and it's imperative that it happens when you're not writing the offer.
And you need to let them know ahead of time if they're high S, that if they find something, they need to move on it. I did that with some people on Sunday. They were very high S's. They wanted to think about it overnight. We've looked at a lot of houses. This is the one. Is there any reason we wouldn't buy this house?
So here's the thing, guys. I need you, this is what we really do work on here, is trying to look ahead of the market, watch the statistics, watch the trends, know what's happening, and prepare you so when you're walking around, you're not like a deer in a headlight going, what do you mean I have to fight for my commission on this listing? What do you mean, another agent will take it for 4.5%? I mean, that's gonna happen.
I just lost 2 listings.
That's happening all the time, right? You're competing. Huh?
I said they get a steak.
You are competing for listings, and you're competing against people who will reduce their commission in a hot second. And there's no judgment in that, guys. I'm not saying that in a judgment perspective. I'm saying that's a business practice that they're choosing. If it's not one that you choose, you better be prepared to prove why you're worth it to get more. Do I think you're worth it? Absolutely. Do I think you deserve 6%, 7%? I think you deserve 10%. Understand that. You've got to sell that. Does that make sense? And you've got to be ready. Don't walk in flat-footed. There's nothing worse than being unprepared. There's a reason it's the Boy Scout motto. Being prepared.
That's it.
Isn't that it?
It sounded good.
That is the Boy Scout motto. I'm an Eagle Scout, yeah.
Be prepared. Be prepared to defend your commissions. Be prepared to I'm gonna Google it. Give me my phone. Love Vector 3. Just showed up.
He's in the room. He's calling it good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Any other thoughts or questions about what you're facing on listings and buy sides in the market? Yes, sir.
I guess just to address for a minute this the $1 listing thing. I had a couple conversations actually yesterday with Mike Smith, the CEO over at MLS. Marcy was part of one of those conversations, and I called him back later. And their position is that back from the days when the MLS was really the only place people could advertise houses, where everybody went for houses, they're kind of treated like a utility, and they can't
like a public utility.
Right. They can't discriminate. You know, they can't require someone to offer certain compensation. There has to be some compensation offered. Okay. And we had a really kind of unpleasant conversation, and I told him that he was not serving his clients well, and he agreed with me and told me there's nothing he can do about it. And I said, well, you really need to figure out what you can do about it, because I said, figure out what 65 times 260 is, because that's what we give you minimum every month in dollars. And we're not happy with this. And,
I know the number, I sent a check.
yeah. I mean, the number's actually way more than that because of all the other things people use MLS for. So one of the ideas I'm thinking about here, and I just mentioned Salt Cut before, is we may possibly figure out a way to block these listings from going out to KWLS and everybody's websites. And we can totally do that.
It's your website.
Yeah. So I don't think that we should be paying money for our own websites to advertise these people's $1 listings.
There are, and I know that there are agents that are already taking action to block them from their own searches going forward. Again, that's a business decision. You have every right to make that decision. How you choose to do it, you know, that's going to be your choice. But there really isn't anything we can do to keep them from doing the dollar listings on MLS. It is what it is. I wanted to share a quick story that I heard this morning, just to kind of encourage you guys in terms of your lead generation and listings. I was chatting with Kevin Cross real briefly, and I don't know if you guys knew, he did a VA investor seminar here recently. Can you just share kind of what happened and what the results were from that?
So it took me about a month to advertise. I did radio and the TV theaters out at Cottonu and like a Facebook ad campaign. It cost me about $6,000 to advertise for 2 seminars at UAA. Each seminar had between 40 and 50 people attend, and my conversion ratio into appointments was about 95%. Wow. So I booked over 30 in-office appointments. Yesterday I had 5 appointments and took 5 listings. And
one listing paid for the advertising.
And it's just, and it's not just these individuals. I'm always like, do you have anybody else, or do you know anybody else that would value from this kind of information? And usually from every contact I'm making, I'm getting at least 2 other names. So and some of the clients have 2 or 3 single family houses that they bought, and they're like, gosh, I never thought about selling it, releasing my VA and using it to buy investment properties or structuring it that way. So it's like an avalanche that started with a small snowball, and it's picking up tremendous momentum.
But that's the thing about lead gen, right? When you get real clear about generating leads and saying, how am I going to generate specifically listings, it becomes an avalanche and snowball, right? And sometimes you got to spend some money to make some money, and you know we're all about lead with revenue, and yet your ROI on that $6 grand, and let's just throw in use of the space and whatever. Let's say it cost you $8,000, which is probably highballing it.
Well, my budget was $7,500, and I was able to keep it just under 6. So.
Okay, so let's say you spent $6,000. Your return on investment on that one project is going to be pretty substantial. I'd say it's $6,000 well spent. Hear me well. I'm not saying go do VA investment seminars. I'm saying get an idea, get creative, and find something that is of use and of value to the public or to your database. Invite them to Red Day, like Lainey and Allison. So invite them to Red Day. Just get shoulder to shoulder with them. Do you know how many people want to give back to the community? A lot. Go ahead.
I was going to say the biggest thing is to find something where you can come from contribution. And how do I add value to your life, and how do I make your situation better? And oh, by the way, I happen to be in real estate, but that is actually a side burner issue. Listen, you can come to my seminar and I'll teach you all the ways to strategically take advantage of VA benefits, not just your loan program or whatever it is, to have passive income within 3 to 5 years to where you don't have to work. It's like having income from a second job, and you can take this and do whatever you want for it. And then there's that law of reciprocity. Gosh, you help me, I feel obligated to kind of either do business with you or send you business if I'm already, I had that. I had a couple guys that were already working with realtors, but they said, but I feel obligated because I know this guy, but I want you to call these 2 guys because they need your help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you sharing the idea. Not, again, I don't really think anybody's going to go emulate it. Do you see what my point is, though? Get clear about driving the listing base. Guys, to be successful in this market, you are going to have listings. It's just the way it is. You can be very successful working with buyers. You will run yourself ragged over the next 10 months. So you want to have some listings to balance it out a little bit and keep your sanity, and keep your peace of mind. Anything that we should add? Anything I'm forgetting?
I don't think so.
Do want to mention to you real quickly, we are working on something. It's taking a couple weeks longer than I had hoped that it would, but that's okay. Starting in May, don't hold me to it, all the high Cs in the room, starting in May, Belisa, starting in May, we should be able to have one of our meetings every month, a statistical analysis of the market, KW versus the market. Anybody been to family reunion and seen the state of the company address? Remember when Mark Willis flashes up the slides and it says KW versus like NAR, and it shows days on market or various statistics. We've been working with our region, and Allison's been working real hard on this. We should have those reports that are cranked out for us that we can then plug and play every month and be able to show you what we've got, where we are against the market. Days on market, average sales price. What are some of the other qualifiers that we're using?
Percentage of list price to sell price, days on market pending. I believe it will also pull seller concession dollars. Again, remembering, and remember this when you're closing out your listings, the data is only as good as the data you put in. So when you're closing out those listings, please make sure you input the right information. It will also, gosh, there's about 20 different categories.
So our hope is, number one, to be able to spend one team meeting a month focused on the market, because again, this is what we do, we try and project forward. But number two, how will it look at a listing presentation when you are competing against a Prudential Realtor and a Remax Realtor and a Dwell Realtor and a Century 21 Realtor, because they're calling them all. Look at Jacob and Matt and Kareem. And you've got the data to say, here's our average days on market versus the rest of the market. Here's our average, and I hope the numbers shake out the way I think they're going to. Yeah, that's always the fun part. But we will have that for you soon. It's a tool that I think will be incredibly helpful in your listing presentations, particularly since you're competing for all your listings now.
And it might be a useful tool for profit share.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing about statistics, guys, if there's 20 different things that we're measuring, you can find one or two that you're like, look at this.
Really good.
Right?